Heyo folks, this is Ham the Guinness Gamer here again, bringing you my next video on PAX Day. Today's video is going to be about the carpentry profession, both before and after the Proving Grounds update, and then just ideas for how I think it can be improved. Before I get into that, if you like this video, you know the drill at this stage. Give me a subscribe and a like, any comments, make blah blah blah, leave them down below. But for now, let's get straight into it. Carpentry before the Proving Grounds update was one of the more straightforward professions. It was fairly easy to level. It was fairly obvious what its use was, in that well, ultimately the primary use was to unlock, or to be used to unlock the building pieces, but also then it had numerous other uses in that what you use it to craft, and primarily you ended up using it to craft the stocks for making weapons and making tools, and then for making loads and loads of chests for storing all of your items. So it meant that you never really had to grind it that much, because all those things, you needed a lot of them. You need hundreds and hundreds of chests basically for storage, and it meant that you didn't have to go out of your way to try and level it, other than there's maybe a couple of levels where I fired out a couple of hundred stocks just to get me up to, by level 21 I think it was, to unlock the highest level building pieces, which was a bit strange, because the max level of carpentry was 41, and once I actually hit 21 I never leveled it anymore because I didn't feel like I needed to. So that was the uses for it really. At that level then, at 21, you could make all the building pieces, you could make all the stocks that you needed to make, and chests and everything, all straightforward to make, and there was no reason then why you would have leveled further. One thing I will mention is that they actually removed some of the higher level build pieces that were in, the higher level wooden pieces that were in Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. They had red pieces that were a higher tier, but they've completely removed that for early access, and it hasn't returned in the Proving Grounds update. I presume they'll return at some point in the future, because right now there's not that many tiers of wood. There's only 2 tiers, and everything else there's a few more tiers, and that's what I presume they'll make their way back in, but they haven't yet. One thing I'll mention about carpentry, there's some recipes in it that don't make any sense. You know, it's a minor thing, but the likes of iron chandeliers, a couple of different types of iron chandeliers, but all of the all of the materials used in making it is all metal, but yet it's the carpenter workbench, and obviously carpenters are supposed to work with wood. Blacksmiths should really be making the chandeliers, but that's a minor point. In general, I think before the update it felt okay, had a use, wasn't amazing, wasn't massively fun, but was functional in that you created some wooden bits that you needed for your building, and then you leveled it enough to unlock your building pieces. Now, Proving Grounds update, the start of November, has changed things somewhat, and I know there's been a good amount of complaints directed at the devs for this. They've moved around a lot of the recipes for a start, which makes a bit of sense. They've made the higher level build pieces need you to be like level 32, 33, in around there for carpentry. But originally they didn't actually tell people about that, so obviously people logged in after the Proving Grounds update and couldn't make the build pieces that they could make prior. Well, sorry, there was a minor, they could actually when the update went live, and then there was another like kind of stealth update that come in that then removed the ability to do it, which is even more annoying. But I understand what they're trying to do. I mean, the highest tier build pieces should be unlocked at a higher level of carpentry. You shouldn't be able to go to level 21 and unlock everything when there's a maximum of level 41. So it makes sense, but the issue that I have, or the biggest issue that I have at the minute, and again, this is known and the devs are talking about it, and there's supposed to be a hotfix coming out next week to address this issue, but you hit around level 31 and there's no recipes anymore to actually level up. So there's some recipes that you can use that are on very easy mode or whatever, that will give you a small amount of XP, but to do them you need loads of limestone, and there's a shortage of limestone in the map, and altogether not that many people have been able to actually get up to level 32, 33 to be able to make those build pieces. Now it will have been possible if somebody had a lot of limestone stockpiled from before the update. I actually had about 1,000 floating about, and that was able to bring me up from level 21 to 31. So that's another thing that they have clearly temporarily put into the game, is that they've made carpentry really easy to level. So normally that 1,000 limestone would probably only brought me up a couple of levels, but it's brought me up 10 levels because basically, well, they know that they've made a mess up and they're trying to appease players by giving them a really easy pathway to increase their carpentry level so that they can build the build pieces that they could build before the update. I'm sure that's only a temporary fix, but the issue still remains then that once you hit level 31 you can't, it's really difficult to get any higher, unless you have probably thousands more limestone sitting around, which I did not have. So I'm sitting here at maybe 31.5 waiting patiently for the update next week to actually unlock the newer building pieces. Now that's just a bit of a mess up from the devs point of view. It's no great issue, it will be fixed and forgot about and ironed over. The issue, well, partially the issue is that they didn't see it coming, because you would think logically you should have, that was obviously going to be a problem if you look through the recipes and realise, oh, there's actually no recipes for anybody to use at level 31 other than really easy ones that won't give them XP. But we'll not dwell on that, that's okay, that'll be fixed and it'll be fine. Generally, carpentry feels roughly pretty similar to what it was before the update. Other than that, I mean, it's going to be used for unlocking build pieces. What level you unlock those at is kind of irrelevant for when you're looking at the big picture, but at the same time it makes sense for the higher level build pieces to be towards the higher level of carpentry. You know, otherwise there was no point for those latter 20 levels before the update, because I imagine most people did what I did and just didn't bother because there was no point. Now, a lot of other things with the Proven Grounds update hasn't been changed in carpentry. You know, there's still, I was hoping that maybe they would have upgraded the chests and stuff that you can make with a carpenter's workbench. Right now the decorated chest, I think it's called, is like sort of a mid-tier chest that you can make, and it's as big as any of the higher tier chests that you can make, the metal ones and the, you know, there's no point making those, using the mats to make those higher tier chests for them to have the exact same capacity as decorated chests. I think minor things like that need change with recipes. Also, I said before in my blacksmithing video that you know, there's an overlap there, obviously, just the way that professions will work in this game. There's an overlap between what certain professions can do and what they actually do. You know, a good example of how they've done it right, I suppose, is the chests that you make. You make hinges and you make nails, I think, with blacksmithing, and then the carpenter takes them and he makes the wooden chests and puts the nails and the hinges into it. That makes sense. Other recipes should try, I think, to follow that mold a bit, in that, you know, I said earlier about the iron chandelier, as it is, it's fully made of metal, so it should be a blacksmith's job. If you wanted to add a bit of wood to it, you could, you know, the holder for it that connects it to the ceiling, or some of the wee don't know what you call them, wee sconces or whatever that will hold the candles and things like that, like they could be made out of wood, and therefore you could have different recipes like that need the carpenter and the blacksmith, if they're different people or the same person, to make multiple items, and then somebody puts them together, whether it be the carpenter, or I think in a chandelier, a metal chandelier's point of view, it should be the blacksmith putting it together. But there'll be other things that you can make that argument for the carpenter, like the storage boxes. Majority of them are wood. Get a couple of items made by the blacksmith, because he's a metal worker, and get those items off him and then put them into your wood, and there you go. The majority of the XP belongs to the carpenter there, but also then a blacksmith is getting a bit of XP too, because you're requesting the hinges and the nails and whatever else off him. I think there's a lot of room for overlap, but in a fun way then, between professions, to make, if you have a big clan and you have a dedicated blacksmith and you have a dedicated carpenter, you know, to make there be a bit of reliance on each other. Which it is an MMO after all, so that would be good. Now, of course, people play this solo, and that's okay, and it has to be possible to play it solo too, but you just have to do all those things yourself, and there's no reason why you can't in that example. The big part here then is how you would improve carpentry, or how I think you could improve carpentry. To me, I've already mentioned the recipes there and stuff that could be tweaked, and that's okay. They're kind of small fixes that can really be done at any point. But the big overarching idea that I have for it, or thought that I have on it, is why do you place build pieces? Why do you use carpentry to unlock build pieces, but carpentry doesn't make those build pieces? So if you're talking about making a wooden roof, maybe throwing some reeds or some straw onto it or whatever, why isn't that a craft that the carpenter maybe does, and does it at the workbench, and then places it in the real world. Once you have that, that straw roof or whatever wooden roof in your inventory, you can then place that. It's the way a lot of games do it, and it kind of works and it's kind of logical. The reason why I'm bringing it up at this point is because we're having a bit of issue with the devs, I suppose, about leveling Carpentry, and now that all of a sudden, instead of needing to go to level 21 before the Proving Grounds update, you need to go to 30, 32 or 33 after the Proving Grounds update to unlock the best build pieces. The easiest way to do that isn't more recipes, although I'm sure that's what they're going to bring in. It's to use what we already do, and that is building a base, and building a base that's largely made out of wood. Certainly the building pieces are, or the lower level building pieces are. If you're getting XP for each of those wooden walls that you've made, or each of those whatever wooden roofs, straw roofs, whatever we have, your carpentry is going to level pretty quickly, and it makes complete logical sense, or it does to me anyway. Like, we're actually currently making a couple of pegs and a couple of wooden planks and wooden beams, whatever, and we're getting the carpentry XP for making those. Then we're magically putting them together with a hammer and replacing them in the world, and we're getting no XP for that. Now you're getting the benefit of maybe building a nice base and all the aesthetic benefits that come and role-playing benefits that come along with that, and those are great. But why not give a wee bit extra? Why not give somebody a carpentry experience as well for putting those items together? I think it would solve a lot of issues around carpentry. I mean, you wouldn't need to bring any more recipes into it, that's for sure. Because the amount of build pieces that people make, then you would be sorted for leveling it. What you could also do is you could kind of split it and treat carpentry almost like the blacksmithing profession, and you could have a separate profession maybe called construction or something like that, where it then also is able to cover all the stone pieces and the clay pieces and the shingle pieces and all, because it's construction, it's not just woodwork. And then carpentry is just like a prerequisite to construction, and then it's a construction profession possibly that unlocks the build pieces, because that makes complete sense. And then carpentry is just like as I say, just like the blacksmithing to weaponsmithing, say, it just makes the items, or makes the wood, still makes the wooden beam, still makes the wooden peg, still makes the wooden planks, and maybe still deal with the straw and things that are loosely related to carpentry, but a lot of the other stuff then belongs in a construction skill tree. And that sort of removes the bit of, it lacks a bit of sense for me. It's not all about realism, of course it's not, you can overdo that, but it lacks a bit of sense to me that you're sitting there making loads and loads of wood stocks for like handles for weapons and for tools and stuff, and that is how you unlock the ability to build a clay roof. How is how is that helping your knowledge? Whereas building the walls is helping your knowledge. Building the floors, building whether they're wood or they're stone or they're clay, that's helping your XP gain for, say, the construction profession. And then unlocking things at level 33, the highest level build pieces at, say, 33 out of level 41 construction, makes complete sense, because it's construction, and that's how you unlock all the better build pieces. And then the construction table that I'm talking about, it's where you actually build your stone wall, your wooden floors, your clay roofs, or whatever, your shingle roofs. And all of a sudden, all of those things belong under one umbrella, which is the building umbrella, and the profession's called construction. And then, as I say, carpentry is a prerequisite to construction in some elements, i.e. the wooden elements. Blacksmithing is probably a prerequisite for some of the metal elements. It's probably a bit much to want a stone worker or a clay worker or something like that, but you could have that in there too, and they're the ones that prepare the obviously the clay and the stone items. But I'd probably leave them, it's probably just too much, as I say, I'd probably leave them in the construction, and it's the construction guy, the engineer, that actually puts all that together. And I think that's a very big way of changing but also improving carpentry, and again, as I said earlier, making players feel like they're gaining something. They're gaining XP by actually making these building pieces, so you're gaining that as well as gaining a pretty base. So that's obviously a big change if they were to put that in. Also, then I mentioned it earlier about the higher tier wood. should have higher tier wood. I mean, it gets a bit stale, and I think they do plan on it. Maybe different types of trees are going to give you more than just sapwood and heartwood. There needs to be a third, maybe even a fourth tier of wood. If you're not going to name them after different trees, then just have them so that it's logical. Although I don't know, after sapwood and heartwood, I don't know what word you would come up with. I'm not a tree surgeon, so I wouldn't know, but you bring up 2 more tiers of wood anyway, and then all of a sudden, if you're removing a lot of the recipes, well, some of the recipes from the carpenter's bench to a construction bench, then you'll be replacing those recipes with different tiered recipes for the different wood. So that would be another way that I think you could improve it. And then, yes, the third way, then again, I touched on it earlier, was making it overlap with other professions. This is generally a point I have for basically all the professions, that the more overlap and the more team play that you can encourage between players that are doing different professions, then the better, the more fun the game will be in general. Like, as I say, the chandelier maybe needing wooden parts and metal parts and being put together, or you can make that argument for lots of different things, and you don't want to go too granular. But I touched on maybe having a stonemason or something like that, as well as a construction bench. Stonemason then could put together the stones and the clay, and the cement would be made from something, and then that overlaps with the construction guy. And I think the in general the professions in this game have a lot of promise. There's a lot of good basis there for how the game plays out, and in a couple of years' time. But it does require some fairly big changes, and maybe you can have, there is such a thing as too many professions, but maybe a couple more just to help even things out, even the workload out over, they added skin in there in the Proving Grounds update, which makes complete sense, because we were just skinning the animals with no skill before, so you probably hope they look at it, at the possibility of maybe bringing in construction, but only time will tell. It's just my thoughts on it. For now, I think I've rambled on long enough about it. I could talk about different professions in this game for all day, but I will call it there. As I said earlier, if you like this video, feel free to give me a like, a subscribe, any comments to make, etc, etc. But for now, wherever you are, thank you for watching, and goodbye and good luck.